Good evening and welcome to the Seneca Scout. I'm Jack.
And I'm Nate.
From Saudi Arabia to rescue dogs to the school's annual senior citizen luncheon, we have a good mix of stories for you tonight. As usual, we begin with international news. Violence has ensued between Palestinians and Israeli security forces, as well as the Muslim community, after President Trump announced that the U.S. would recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital last Wednesday. Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, advocated for the recognition of Israel's capital and took his case to the European Union, only for it to be deemed a hit to the peace progress and promptly dismissed. Some of Israel's closest allies agreed and said that the recognition of Israel's capital in Jerusalem risks increased violence and makes the fight for peace that much harder. Sweden's top diplomat added that no European at the closed-door meeting gave support to Trump's announcement and stated that it was unlikely any other country would follow behind the U.S. The Trump administration is now working on a peace proposal made by the Middle East envoy and Trump's senior advisor. European leaders have said that the decision on Israel's capital makes the need for peace movement even more pressing.
On Monday, December 11th, Saudi Arabian officials stated that they will finally lift the ban on commercial cinemas that has been in effect for more than 3 decades. The decision to bring back cinemas comes from the Crown Prince's Vision 2030, a social and economic reform program. The goal of the Vision 2030 program is to increase household spending on cultural and entertainment activities in the oil-dependent kingdom from 2.9% to 6% by 2030. Even when the decades-long ban on cinemas, movie buffs were able to get around by streaming movies online and over satellite TV. Prince Mohammed has a goal to make Saudi Arabia, quote, a country of moderate Islam that is open to all religions, traditions, and people, end quote.
The likelihood of a government shutdown occurring is increasing as government funding will run out by December 22nd. The battle over funding is likely to center on 2 major issues. Democrats want protections for young immigrants under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, known as DACA, which grants work permits to undocumented young immigrants who came to the U.S. illegally as children. The program, which many Republicans believe is unconstitutional, is not listed to get any new funding after President Trump announced that he was ending the program, giving Congress the choice to either get rid of it or save it. The second issue is defense, where Republicans believe that a short-term spending bill will harm the U.S. military, especially when tensions in North Korea are at an all-time high. Some Republicans want a long-term funding package for defense, and it is unclear whether or not the Democrats will agree with this proposal. The Republicans, which control both houses of Congress, need 8 Democratic votes in the Senate to overcome a filibuster.
Continuing on with the government route, last week Sarah went to the YMCA to find out a bit more about the local government program. Let's check in with her.
Alongside the Zumba and swim classes that the local Rosie Schneider YMCA has to offer are over 40 Seneca Valley students and 1 Pine Richland student every Alongside the Zumba and swim classes that the local Rosie Schneider YMCA has to offer are over 40 Seneca Valley students and 1 Pine Richland student every Monday night preparing for another youth and government meeting.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would just like to point out that
more often called YAG, Youth in Government is an entirely student-run mock government club. The YMCA program is statewide, providing Pennsylvania students from 7th grade on with unique, hands-on experience in the areas of government, law, and media. Weekly delegation meetings all culminate in a 4-day session held at the State Capitol building in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, called Model.
Okay, so Model Conference is basically like a 3-pronged system. What we have is a press branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. Now what happens in the press and the legislative branch is people write bills and then people pass bills, and the press branch is responsible of doing all sorts of media coverage of what's going on in legislative as well as judicial. Finally, judicial has a case study where they determine the constitutionality of a certain case which is presented to them based on the PA code, and they argue against lawyers and justices through a competition type system.
The Rosie Schneider delegation meets every Monday night from 5:30 to 6:30. Elected student officers work together to completely plan, organize, and run each meeting, preparing new and old delegates for model.
So my position in the club is that I'm the delegation leader, and generally speaking, this is kind of acts like the president, and so I decide when we're going to debate bills, what the bill schedule is going to look like, how we run the club basically, because it's a student-run club. A lot of it goes into whether we're going to debate like House bills or we're going to debate Senate bills, when we're going to release applications, when the press meetings happen, when the judicial meetings happen, and stuff like that. Initially, I joined YAG because my cousin made me, and she was the Speaker of the House, which basically runs a whole chamber of YAG. And she told me, hey, you might not be super into government, but I think you should join this because it'll help with your public speaking, and it's a good experience.
Each meeting is different, and students take various lessons out of YAG, both about democracy and about life in general.
I think the best thing about YAG is definitely how many different opinions there are and how heated debate gets, but when we walk off chambers, we're all still friends. Like, we can all be yelling at each other in chambers with opposing opinions, conservative, liberals, going at each other neck to neck, but then at the end of the day, we go have lunch afterwards, and it's like nothing even happened.
So we just debated a bill on safe spaces in public universities funded by taxpayer dollars, and my personal position is that they shouldn't be repealed, which is what the bill was trying to do. And for me, it was really interesting to hear the minority party's opinion and the majority party's opinion, and it was really surprising to me because the majority party's opinions as time went on changed, and it ended up passing, so safe spaces were repealed from public universities. And I think that's probably like my favorite part of YAG, just hearing even the majority party's opinions sway and just seeing the variety of opinions but still keeping my own.
Regardless of political standpoints or personal beliefs, each delegate is encouraged to speak their views and speak loud and proud. I'm Sarah Donaldson from the
Thanks, Sarah. I know I have a lot of friends that are in youth and government, and they do excellent work. It is a great start for those interested in government or processes with it. In other news, last Sunday at the Nobel Prize Gala in Stockholm, Sweden, Michael Rauschbach, a Nobel Prize laureate, used his speech to discuss how the current political climate in the United States is endangering the sciences. Michael Rauschbach shared the Nobel Prize in Medicine for his work in circadian rhythms, also known as the body clock, thanks to the very funding that he claims is endangered. Rauschbach stated in his speech, quote, "We benefited from an enlightened period in the post-war United States," end quote. He continued, quote, "This current climate of the U.S. is a warning that continued support cannot be taken for granted," end quote. He believes that the current tension with immigration also directly affects the sciences, as in the past, some leading scientists were those who fled dangerous situations to the United States for safety. Now, let's kick it over to James for the weekly Raider Recap.
Thanks, guys. Welcome back to the Raider Recap. I'm James Rickard. In this edition, we're going to start with your own Raider varsity hockey. The Seneca Valley Raiders beat Plum Valley by a score of 5-1. Goals were scored by Nate Lenz, Noah Watkis, RJ Testa, Hunter Mueller, and Giovanni Sarachin. And on to professional sports. The Pittsburgh Penguins fell 2-1 against the Colorado Avalanche, the only goal coming from Phil Kessel. And lastly, the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Baltimore Ravens by a score of 39-38, with touchdowns coming from Le'Veon Bell and Roosevelt Nix. That's all we have for the Raider Recap this week. Check back next week for more. Now back to Jack and Nate.
Thanks, James. A shipwreck exhibit opened last month in Erie, Pennsylvania. The exhibition is held at the Tom Ridge Environmental Center up until April 13th. The Great Lakes Shipwreck exhibit was created to tell the stories of the wrecks, although some of the stories are still unknown. Those who will go find these stories as documented by newspapers along with other original accounts, artwork based on the wrecks, artifacts that were recovered on shore, and a 3D map of some of the shipwrecks locations around Presque Isle. The exhibit has interactive features such as an observation deck where patrons are able to look into Lake Erie below. The exhibition was arranged and held by the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources.
Grounds and Hounds Coffee Company is a Pittsburgh-based company that's putting a unique spin on rescuing dogs. They partner with organizations and set up a meeting where people can get 15 minutes to sit with the dog they want to adopt and have a cup of coffee. It is a Lawrenceville-based company that was started by Jordan Karcher in 2013 but has grown in the recent years. The idea was inspired by a ritual where Jordan sat with his rescue dog after their morning walk and sipped a warm cup of coffee. His company makes it a point to partner with only no-kill, open-door shelters. He's partnered with many companies including the Humane Animal Rescue, One Tail at a Time dog rescue, pet refuge, and many more. He says he would like to expand and open more locations in other places, but for now he's comfortable with the simple mission of selling great quality coffee and helping dogs find their homes.
On Tuesday, senior high school students sang the annual Senior High Winter Concert. The Seneca Valley Concert Choir, senior high women's and men's choirs, madrigals, and women's and men's quartets all performed sections of the concert. Directed by Aaron McGill, the concert is a culmination of the students' work both in and out of class since the beginning of the school year. A few of the pieces sung by the various choirs include Baba Yetu, Baby It's Cold Outside, and Tonight Jesus is Born, which is a senior high winter concert tradition. Seneca Scout talked to Shirley Harmer, a member of the concert choir and the madrigals, about her feelings before the concert occurred.
So what was your favorite part about the chorus concert?
Well, my favorite part is when the choir sings Tonight Jesus is Born. It's a tradition for us all to hold candles and then turn the lights off in the auditorium and do the song completely in candlelight.
And how do you feel the concert went?
I think it went really well. I love the Christmas concert just because it gives us a chance to show the community all the hard work we've been putting into chorus, and it gets everyone into the holiday spirit.
SVTV was at the concert and will continue to provide coverage for all of the winter's concerts, shows, and events.
Today, the Seneca Valley Senior High School hosted their 20th annual senior holiday event. The event, which is hosted in the Senior High School auditorium, brings over 400 senior citizens in from the 9 communities of Seneca Valley. The seniors were brought to the school where they enjoyed a performance by the award-winning Seneca Valley Madrigals, as well as the strings and jazz band. They were provided lunch in the cafeteria, served by student volunteers from the National Honor Society and Student Council. The JROTC was helping out as well. One of the managers of the event, Linda Andraci, said, quote, "I received so many wonderful thank you notes and cards in the days that follow, and they are so complimentary as this event is the only way they can actually get into the holiday spirit." End quote.
And that's all we have for you this week at the Seneca Scout. Have a great weekend and make sure to tune back in next week. Thanks for watching and good night.